Hello, it's Duncan. So far with the Gilded Rose code, we have just put everything into one big package, com Gilded Rose. And that's getting a bit difficult to navigate, to be honest with you. I have to look through every file, and it doesn't really reveal anything about the layers of our application. So today what we're going to do is we're going to organize this a bit. We're just going to break it into packages rather than modules. Now, the problem with that is that packages can all talk to each other within a module, and so we won't be enforcing any layering, but it will give us an idea of how we might structure an application as it grows bigger. So you might have heard of the onion architecture, and at the center of our onion, at the core, we have our domain types. So what are those in our app? Well, I think probably our item and our item type, and maybe the way that we update those. Some of that business logic maybe. So let's start by creating a domain package and putting item in there. Move to the package com Gilded Rose domain. That doesn't exist, but with luck it'll be created. And we want to add that. So now we've got item, and it's in com Gilded Rose domain. Now obviously any code that referenced item will have had to change its imports, and we'll just check that that'll build nicely. IntelliJ, you can see, has updated quite a few files for that change. These ones in blue here. Okay, and we have creating. Let's have a look in there, and all that is really is a factory for item. So I think we could safely take that and move it into that same file. Let's try that. To package domain in the file item. Let's see whether that works. So now our item has item of and the data class, which is good, and check that we will still build. Splendid. And hand in hand with item, we have item type. So these go together. So I think we can move item type into domain. If we look at it, we've got an interface, and again, we've got a factory, and we've got our item types. And I think they're quite reasonable to say they're all part of our domain. So let's take that and drag it into the package. So we're going to move item type, and we're going to update and run that. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, IntelliJ is not so smart at that and has managed to move item type into the domain but not update things. I don't know what's broken here. Well, I know what's broken, it's IntelliJ, but I don't know why it's broken. So I'm going to undo that move, and we'll try and do it another way. Check it builds before we do. Still does. Let's go to item type and see whether we can select multiple things to move. We can. So we want to take everything here and move it to domain. See whether that refactor works. Well, at least that compiles, and that should probably just have been a move of that file. So there is item type. Yes, it just moved it. Well, it did the right thing at least. Okay, updating then is also probably part of our domain. I think we can reasonably move that, so let's do the same thing. So we'll take that and move it into domain. It's given it a change in name. I don't know why, so let's rename it back to where it was. And check that everything's happy. Good. Now you can see that a number of tests have changed, and the reason for that is that they are now in the wrong package themselves. So HB updating test should be in the domain package because it's testing domain types. I think we'll probably just go and create ourselves a package in here and drag those and fix everything up because it's too painful to use F6. So this is the domain package in the test tree, and the age pre-updating test, the conjured, and the item tests, and the passes and the standard updating tests, I think, are all going to go into domain. See how that goes. Well, they have all moved, and they have all had their package updated. So that's good. We'll check that they have moved as far as Git is concerned, and it has, so that's also good. Right. Run. Good. Now, I do find when moving things around like this that it's easy to want to change your mind. So I think we're going to commit them in batches. And in this case, that's a batch of creating a domain package. So let's commit that, shall we? Okay. Now let's go back to the code and see what's left. So we've got domain, which is our items, our core classes, and how they update, a bit of business logic. And now we have analytics, persisting, routes, server, stock, and so on. Now these are also layers, and I think probably the next layer is the IO layer. That is persisting, and also I think stock here. This talks to a file and is responsible for loading and saving, updating that file. So in another app, these might be database calls, but here we're just using the file system. So I think probably we'll say that this is a persistence package, and we might take persisting and move all of its bits. Now it's a bit of a pain selecting them all. I wonder whether I can do Command A in there. Not really. So let's go through one by one and say we want these in gilded rows persistence. And I think it's good to have packages named after nouns, really. Okay, for some reason it's changed the case of that, so we'll tell it to do the same, and let's ask it to refactor. And now persisting is in there. Check it builds. Just have a look at the file. It has messed with it a little, you see, but reformatted maybe, which is a shame, but that will do. Okay, and as we said, as well as persisting, stock is concerned with IO, concerned with maintaining the current state, so we'll drag that into persistence as well. See what happens. Okay, stock has ended up in the right place, but it hasn't updated the reference to stock list for some reason, so we'll do that by hand. Have a look at the imports. It hasn't updated those either. See whether that builds. So it was a really rather bad refactor, that drag. I don't know why. And now in some tests, we've also lost some things. So let's have a look. Days 2 tests. So days 2 tests, we're testing days 2, surprisingly. And that I think is in stock, is it? Yes, so we're testing that little internal function. So that suggests that days 2 tests should be in persistence. So we'll take this and say move it to gilded rows persistence. Let's see whether that's a better refactor. But we do want to move everything in there. That. And likewise stock tests is now in the wrong package, so we'll move that. These should really have been fixed up by IntelliJ, and I do not know why that has stopped working. Okay, let's see whether that is a running set. Good. Suspiciously here we have persistence tests, which let's load and save, so that evidently should be also in persistence. Again, we'll try dragging, see what we get. Being a test, there weren't any references to it, so that has succeeded. Good, well now gilded rows itself is looking a bit smaller. Let's commit that change. That's good. Right, what do we have left? Starting at the top, we have analytics. Now, analytics is composed of an interface and a type alias and some implementation. So a logging analytics that uses a logging object mapper. In a more mature system, these might be split out into different files, maybe even different modules. But I think at the very least, they should be in their own package. So we'll take this and we'll move it. And we might put these in a package called analytics, but that would only contain one file. So I think maybe we'll call it foundation. Foundation is a good name for those types and classes, the code that might be used by other parts of this application, other modules, maybe even other applications written in this organization. So this foundation is low-level code that we might think that we'd find generally useful. That's another weird error. Cannot set package name for compiled files. It has at least moved it. Let's have a look. I say it's moved it, but it hasn't changed package. Let's see whether that works. And it hasn't updated the imports. Here, and HTTP event, something odd there. It hasn't updated that import either. And the actual tests are trouble, but that we can probably solve by taking our analytics tests and moving their package to foundation. With the same problem, which we can fix ourselves, but you might wonder why we have to. And finally, in fixture, we have this analytics then, which we use to compose analytics. That feels, it's in test code, but it feels like it would be generally useful. So let's take it out of there and put it into our analytics file, make it public. And then we just have to import it where it's used. Moving things around didn't used to be this painful. Okay. So now we've got some foundation types, and this would be a good place for utilities on string, maybe things that work with files, that sort of thing. Okay, let's commit that. So this is our foundation package. Okay, we are getting there. Let's see what else we have left. At the top now we have roots, and looking at it, this isn't root, it's a particular root, and it's the root for listing. So let's rename that, I think. We've got to decide what we want to allow in the top level package, and I think this is sort of our entry point. So it will contain HTTP level code and then build on sub packages like domain and foundation and so on. You can use the services from these, but these probably shouldn't use services from the top level. Okay, so we're going to rename that to be listing, run, and that failed some tests. Let's have a look. No such method error. That's unusual. I'm going to go away and work out what that problem is. Okay, so here I am back again, and the problem, it turns out to be that we have another file called listing.kt in our test tree in the same package, and the test version is overlaying, hiding the production version when the tests are being run. It's not entirely sure to me that the compiler, the build environment, should allow that to happen. But if we look in listing, all it actually has is one constant. Who knows why it was still called listing. So I think probably we could solve our problem by renaming this end to be test data. And see whether that fixes things. Well, that's good. So listing contains our list handler and the view model and some utilities, private utilities that's being used by that. If we had a more complicated application with routes that required several files, then we might split those out into their own little packages. But for now, I think this will be fine. Working our way down, we have server. This looks like another one of those classes that might reasonably be used by other applications in our organization. So I think perhaps a package of gildedrose.http for those sort of things. And again, sooner or later, these might be moved into their own module, but we can split out, give ourselves an idea of the layering by using packages within one module. That has broken main, I suspect. And there we are. We need to re-import that. What's left then? Well, we have stock list. Oh, we missed that the first time round. Stock list looks very much like a domain class to me. So let's move that. And so all that really leaves us with now is our listing and our stock list view model, which is a handlebars template. That might go in resources rather than our Java tree, but it seems to be working here, so we'll leave it alone for now. Now it feels to me like we're missing quite a bit of code. So where is that? Well, the answer is it's in main, because main has a lot of code that we just lumped in here while we were writing it. The result is that things like routes for are referenced, in fact, in the root package, which is a little bit strange. So I think probably we should move those out of main. And that will leave main as our just a function that starts the server with some routes. Where are we going to put those? Well, we've now freed up the routing file name in our main package, so let's take these and move them there. So this is going to go into com gilded rose in a file name of routing.kt. And we'll move everything out for now and then work out what needs to stay. Add that back to Git and compile that. Now, right at the moment, I can't see that file, so let's see where it is. Ah, it ended up putting it in a file called main.kt, which I didn't think was what we asked for, but never mind. So let's rename that. And we'll call it routes because it has our main routes. Now, looking down through this, it contains a singleton object for zone IDs and analytics that it passes into our list handler. And the analytics is used by our catch-all filter and our logging for our HTTP transactions. Down here, though, is some code that I think, again, we might reasonably think would be useful in other applications. So probably I think those belong in HTTP. They're about HTTP transactions. You can see they're about HTTP 4K. And so I think let's take some of these, let's make them public where they aren't, and then move this. So that is report catch HTTP event. We're going to move those into HTTP. And in a file, these I think are effectively filters. Add that. Okay, so now we have Gilded Rose HTTP with some filters of report transactions, catch-all, and the data classes that they use to log. Having a look in our tests then, we're left with application events tests. Well, this runs up our app and does actually hit the roots in it, so I think that does belong in this package. It's a little bit odd because it's testing our analytics and it's testing our filters, but it's testing them through the front door, and so I think that probably belongs here. Otherwise, if we moved it down a package, it would be relying on things in the main package, which is a bit odd for tests. Fixture that's used by our tests might be moved into com Gilded Rose testing, but I think we'll leave where it is for now. List stock tests is testing the listing here, so I think that's in a good place. And finally, test data has our one item of remaining test data. Okay. Try building it, running it. I'm going to commit that. And we created HTTP. Create an HTTP package and more organization, I'll say. One warning. It's always an unused import. Good. Now, after a refactor like that, it would surprise me if we hadn't messed something up. We'll keep an eye on the packages that things are in. One of the problems with Kotlin is that it allows you to put code in a directory that doesn't correspond with a package. That can be useful, but it's also an opportunity to have things in the wrong place and not be able to find them. What was our guiding principle here? Well, it was layering. So we're not enforcing it here, but the lowest level here is our domain types. We then have persistence, which allows us to get and fetch those from the filing system. We have foundation, which could be used in principle by any part of our app. We have HTTP, which are generally reusable abstractions that are built on by our routes. And at the top level, we have our actual routes, the way they're rendered, and at the very, very top level, with no package at all in order to make it easy to run, we have our main function, which just imports other things. Well, now we're a lot better organized. Some might argue too organized, but I think we're now in a good place to think about error handling a bit more in our next episode. If you'd like to do that, then you could subscribe to the channel. And if you like more of this content, then please like this video. If you do like this, then I think you'll probably enjoy the book that I wrote in that price called Java to Kotlin, a Refactoring Guidebook. Thank you very much for watching.